Hello, welcome to another session of drawing comics. Pardon me. All the information about me is right below my video right there. Jersey Drost, cartoonist and teaching artist. And what we're drawing today is the cover to the Captain SRSLY comic I've been working on in little tiny bits and pieces over the last 2 months. Only get a couple hours a week to work on this, so it's coming together kind of slower than it usually does. So, oh, and if you've been following along, then you know that I have been inking these pages on paper. Scanning them and, right, been inking on paper, scanning, and then importing back into Clip Studio Paint. So penciled in Clip Studio Paint, printed onto paper, inked on paper, imported back in Clip Studio Paint for coloring. But for the cover, I decided I was going to ink it digitally. Two reasons. One is I feel like there's not much of an illustration to do here, so I feel like I can get through it pretty quickly. Because one of the reasons I was inking on paper had more to do with saving time than anything else, and you know, tricking myself into not noodling over things and getting into like really tiny nitty gritty detail. Like, you know, there's not that much detail to get into on this. And also because I found this brush in Clip Studio Paint, and this came from Ray Frendon's collection of brushes. It's called Dry Dolan, and when I was playing around with it, man, did it feel like it was doing the textury stuff that I like. What happens when ink happens? Oh my gosh. Language. I like how it feels like it's giving me the same kind of texture I get when I ink on paper. You know what I'm going to do, though, in order to speed this up? Do a technique that I used to do a long time ago. Okay, that's too thick of a line. Well, maybe, is it? I'm going to do a vector layer where I ink just the contours and define the shapes. And then from there, I'm going to do a second layer where I fill in the details. That'll come in handy when I do my flats. About. So I'm not going to do his eyes because they're not closed. I'm basically going to ink all the closed shapes. This is a way of inking that I used on my comic Boulder and Fleet, Mining for Trouble. Oh my goodness gracious, come on. I swear I'm going to stop doing that undoing. Pardon me. Phlegm. That's fun. The idea here is I'm going to just define the open shapes with my ink, with this ink layer, so that when I go to do my flats, I can just like paint bucket in, just turn off my details layer. Like all the interior details will be on another layer. So I have a nice open contour just to dump with my paint bucket. I remember when I discovered this way of working on Boulder and Fleet, I got so darn excited about it that I taught it in a class for adults. I did a Clip Studio Paint class for grown-ups. And it didn't occur to me that, like, you know what, maybe people don't want to work that way. And I was like, why wouldn't you want to work that way? Like, that seems like a lot of layer management. I'm like, well, I guess it is. Oh, come on. I'm having the roughest time this morning. What size are you, brush? Let's get you up to 12 points, see if that helps. What I'm going for here, I mean, they have an ulterior motive as well. Like, this is... Oh my gosh. So my hypothesis was, when I discovered this brush, which once again, what was it called again? It's called Dry Dolan in Ray Frendon's collection of brushes. When I discovered it and saw that it was giving me that texture that I like on paper, I thought, man, maybe my next project that I was going to ink on paper, I could ink digitally after all. Why not test it on this cover? So far, I'm not super crazy about it. Although if you saw the Monday stream, then, I mean, one advantage to this is at least I don't have to worry about, like, when I'm flipping my paper around, like, the paper hitting the camera. How's that look? Not too shabby. Hey, Dado, good to see you. Man, I want to get some weird tangents going on here. No. Jumping. Jiminy. There we go. Have I tried the iPad Pro? Any thoughts on this device? So, I have not spent a lot of time with the iPad Pro. I want to say, actually, it was like the last time I played with one was going on 2 years ago. I was visiting my friend Raf Rosado here in Columbus just before I moved here, and hung out in his studio, and he was letting me use his for a while. And I just... Okay, so first of all, the device itself, I can't get over how thin and light that thing is. I'm just like, this would feel like nothing in my shoulder bag. And that makes it super compelling. The pencil experience, it was great. It was a little bit slippery. I know they make tips for the pencil that like gives you a little bit more friction, because I'm actually using the Surface Pen with my Vio Z Canvas, because it's got a little bit more of a rubbery tip on it. So it creates just like a little bit more drag and friction, so it's more like working on a Cintiq. So I felt like this would be an awesome thing for taking out to, you know, a bar, a coffee shop, a bowling alley, and doing like a little bit of drawing. But I feel like I need more time with the pen to get, or the pencil, sorry, to like get this, like a feel for like the idiosyncrasy of it. I'm a pretty forgiving user when it comes to like trying out a new technology. Like, it's like, okay, well, let me learn how you are intending for me to use this, and I can adapt to my style to work with. That's not a problem. But the killer point, the sticking point for me is paying the monthly fee for Clip Studio. I understand why they do it. I mean, it's a fantastic product and they deserve compensation for it. But the idea of, like, here I have it on my Windows machine and I paid for it outright and I own it. It's there. It's mine. Well, mine to the extent that they can always run a software update to, like, with the way they got it running through Clip Studio now. But that monthly fee just creates just enough friction in my head that I talk myself out of getting an iPad. If that makes sense. And the monthly fee is really not that much, right? But there's something about it that just creates just enough friction. I'm like, no, it's okay. I don't have to have it. And to tell you the truth, what I've been thinking about is maybe checking out the Surface, what is it? The Surface Go, which is like the Surface's answer to the iPad. Because then I was like, well, I can just put Clip Studio on it, and then I've got the same thing. And I'm used to this pen experience, so. But I'm not a fan of being locked into any particular ecosystem. I like being a little bit like platform and tool nomadic. And I do use Clip for a lot of things, but if another tool presents itself as having like equal or a different kind of utility. So like when I had a working Galaxy Note phone, which I loved, but I broke 2 of them in a row. Actually, no, 3. I broke 3 in a row, and I do not know what I do to these phones to make them break like that. But all 3 of them are bricked. I had 2 Galaxy Note 2s and then a Galaxy Note 4, all bricked. But I loved working in Medibang on those. That seemed like a really like reasonable like preliminary sketch tool. So if I had an iPad, maybe I'd use Medibang. You rarely use your iPad? The iOS ecosystem is so slow and complicated. Ruin the experience for me. That's another thing too, is like I think about like, well, how am I going to get my stuff off of this thing? Now, it's been a while since I've been in iOS. My last iOS device was an iPhone SE, which I'm actually using as my overhead cam right now. And that was like 2 years ago. That was when I decommissioned it to get an Android phone again. And I just found it felt like iOS just feels like a claustrophobic place to me. I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into why I feel that way about it, but I just remember the moment I started using it. I think part of it has to do with the fact that like you can't upgrade you can't add more storage, you can't put an SD card, although Android's taking that away too, which is just such a drag. But you know. I might have to have 2 instances of this brush, like a smaller one and a larger one for doing finer details. Or adjust my pressure settings. I gotta play around with that a little bit more. So yeah, so like that's another thing that like kind of talks me out of getting an iPad, is just that like that whole idea of like I think I'm not their use case. I think even though I was so excited when the iPad Pro came out, because I'm like, finally, this is what we were waiting for when the first iPad came out, was the ability to draw on it. But then they did a very Apple-y thing where they were like, well, but we're thinking about all of the general user. And so the general user doesn't want to think about file management or think about, like it's always this, this is part of their, I feel like this is part of their brand, is that it's like, you don't have to think about it. We'll take care of it for you. Well, I want to think about it. So therefore, I don't think I'm your customer. And I think that's why the ecosystem feels very claustrophobic to me. And that's not to fault Apple. I think it's just, like I said, they have a different they're serving a different customer base than what I represent. Did I get everybody yet? No. Okay. Let's save. Medibang Paint is, okay, so here's a couple advantages of it. One, it's free, right? That's pretty great. It does a lot of the stuff that I feel like Clip Studio is kind of like mimicking what Metabang and other apps like that do. It's like with the whole Clip Studio app, where you can manage your resources and your what is it called now? Your materials. Metabang does the same thing, where the app launches and then there's like this portal where it's like, well, here's where you can manage all of your files in the cloud kind of thing. It opens Photoshop files layered, and it has layers. You can save all of your app settings across devices the way you can like in Clip Studio Paint. So like you can make your own. I had a really nice sort of like crayon brush that I made in there that was wonderful for sketching. And then I just like hit sync across, like I open up a new instance of it and like log in, sync your brushes, boom, you're there. It feels to me like it's Clip Studio for beginners. Like if you've never used Clip Studio, I actually recommend like starting out with Metabang, because it feels like it's like a more simplified approach than Clip Studio. And I think if you play around with it, you'll see what I mean. But for a long time, I was using that on my telephone as a way to, just like sketch out ideas. And then I would just export it through email to, or rather through OneDrive or whatever, cloud syncing app I was using. You just upload it to there, and then boom, it was ready for me to download into Clip Studio Paint, open up, and continue working on. So one of the RoboForce comics I did, I penciled it in Metabang Paint and then finished it in Clip Studio Paint. And so if I did have an iPad Pro, I probably would do most of my work in Metabang. I'm surprised that Clip Studio, I mean, Dado, you know better than I do, but like, does Clip Studio let you manage your files in the cloud the way like that? Like, so like you would like draw it in Clip Studio Paint on your iPad, the file would be synced in your Clip Studio account, and then you'd be able to like access it through Clip Studio on another device, or does it not do that? That seems like that's what I would expect to happen if I was using it, and I'd be disappointed if it didn't. Oh, it's not an instant update. That's a drag. And it's counterintuitive, right? Because like, again, don't want to turn this into like, let's slag Apple all day. But like, part of their sales pitch is that the interface disappears. Well, until you want to get your files. Oh my goodness. Yeah, see, that doesn't sound like fun at all. And most of the people that I see celebrating the iPad Pro, like artists, I mean, are people who are using Procreate, which I've never used. Sounds terrific. But I don't feel like a really like strong urge to give it a try, because I've got something that works pretty good for me right now. Like, works good for me. I would say like I really love it. I'm not just satisfied, I'm happy with the way I've been working lately. In fact, I feel like I'm living in the time that I intuited in 1994, and I wanted so desperately, and I felt like nobody would ever make it happen. I remember when I finally learned Photoshop and Adobe Illustrator, I'm like, why can't somebody merge these two? Why can't somebody make these two work together so that I could draw in vector and raster at the same time? Somebody's got to be doing that, right? So yes, I'm saving Dame Ladycat for last. Because she's probably my favorite character out of this series. Since this is the last book I'm going to be working on for a few months with these characters. Yeah, when you see those artists using, they have Procreate, they have like different, simpler, calmer approach to draw one illustration at a time, a few layers, meticulous line work. Again, I've not used Procreate. I am confident that it is probably a terrific drawing experience based on the reactions and reviews of artists who I admire. And I think part of my reluctance to dive in and try it is, one, I don't have the device. But two is, like, I remember when I got my Galaxy Note 10.1, which was, you know, the tablet version of the Galaxy Note series, pressure sensitivity, Wacom digitizer. This was like what? 2012, somewhere in the neighborhood. Very exciting, super light device, pressure sensitivity. The pen slips into the device, so you don't have to worry about losing it or anything. Travels great. There were very few really great drawing apps at the time. I remember Metabang was there, but it was an early version of Metabang. Another one was Layer Paint HD, which I remember championing a lot. They were fine. They were good, but they weren't awesome. They didn't have as much flexibility, and it didn't solve as many problems as Clip Studio Paint. And the device I was on, the Galaxy Note 10.1 was great, except for the fact that, man, it did not have very much RAM. So, like, if you have 4 layers, you're out of luck. It's going to take forever to save. It might crash, you know. So I think that experience has got, like, I still have that taste in my mouth. And so when I see Procreate, I'm like, is it like those? It's probably not. But I feel like that I don't want to be ridiculous and use a word like trauma, but something akin to that, a lighter version of that sting, that unpleasant experience still hangs with me. And that was my first thought when I found out Clip was coming to mobile devices. I was like, is it really Clip Studio Paint, or is it some kind of like pared down version for a tablet? And they're like, no, it's the real thing. Oh, wow, that's fascinating. I'm intrigued now. All right. Did I miss anybody? Did I miss any? Oh, I gotta get those crayons yet. All right, let's draw Dame Ladycat. I don't need to do those pupils, not yet. Yeah. Well, thank you for stopping by and asking, Dado. I mean, I'm always... One of the things I'm really enjoying about doing these live streams is like just getting the chance to talk shop with artists. I think most of us artists like just really get excited about talking about tools and which ones we like, which ones we don't like. You know, it's like the idea of like whenever my wife says like, "Oh, you feel like going to the art store?" I'm like, you know, art supply store. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" You never have to ask me if I feel like going to the art supply store, even if I don't need the art supplies. It's just like being around a bunch of art supplies is so much fun. Imagining what you can do with each of them. What's going on there? What did I do here? Oh, I see what that is. That's her little sleeve. It's folded over itself. And there's her umbrella. Oh. Let's go the other way. Exactly right. The story I always tell, I remember telling this back in like the Lean Into Art days, is I remember I dated a girl in high school whose dad was a professor of literature at the local university. And he had a friend who rode his bike. His friend rode their bike to his house in the rain, middle of the night, because he found a poem that he absolutely had to share with his friend. And my girlfriend's dad got out of bed willingly, happily, to go pour over this poem with this friend of his. And I remember hearing that thought, like when that story was being relayed to me. And the premise, or rather the tone of the story, was like, "Isn't my dad a goof?" And I just remember thinking, like, I want to have friends like that. I want that friend to wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning because they found this amazing panel sequence in a comic that I just got to see for myself, you know? If it was a Disney movie, that would be the moment where I suddenly break into an I Want song. Be like Ariel and the Little Mermaid. It's certainly one of those careers that asks a lot of you, so it helps if you really, really care about it and love it a lot. And it might be a chicken and egg thing where, because it asks so much of you, you can't help but fall in love with it. Okay. All right, almost there. Make sure I got all my shapes defined. Oh, we got some crayons to... Here's another neat brush I found in Clip Studio. It's called Freehand Line. And check this out. So it's designed... You can just do a search for Freehand Line in Clip Studio. Let's say I take a ruler, special ruler, parallel line, map it to this crayon that I drew. And Freehand Line will... It creates automatic irregularities in the line. See that wobble it added to give it more of a freehand look? So even though it's adhering to the ruler, it gives it just a little bit of wobble and a little bit of texture. I'm going to reduce the size of that brush a little bit so I can get a little bit more opaque line. There we go. Look at that. Looks more hand-drawn now. Isn't that fantastic? Imagine you're drawing some cityscapes and stuff, and you want it to feel a little bit more organic. You don't want it to feel like a Google SketchUp drawing. Well, this brush gets you there. Let me break out my ellipse ruler now. Concentric circle is what they call it. I'll get out my ruler. There we go. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Oh. Helps if you use the right tool. I need my operation tool to... Break out our single line ruler. Delete those rulers. I'm going to freehand that last. Now, don't tell anybody I did this. Copy paste. I am trying to get this done in under an hour. Paste. Some crayon. I'm going to merge these fellas down. Get the ellipse ruler back one more time. Wrong side. There we go. Move over one more time. We'll ink our interior details and we'll flat. What just happened? Where'd my ruler go? I think I did a 2-finger tap, which causes an undo. Okay, time for a raster layer of inks. Back out my dry Dolan brush. Ruler on. Yeah. Oh, I didn't get to call this raster inks. Oh my goodness. I'm wearing the gloves yet. I'm still creating spurious touches. Checking to make sure you're on the right layer. So I asked this on Monday. Anybody watching, did anybody do Hourly Comics Day? Because that is part of the inspiration for this week's episode of the Lean Into Artcast, which streams today. Well, I want to say in about an hour and 20 minutes. Because I did not do it. I talked myself out of it. And it made me, and upon reflection, I realized that I was afraid to do it for some certain reasons, and that was surprising to me. I feel like I have a pretty healthy relationship with art challenges. But this was one where I was really, my negative self-talk like ramped up to 1,000 RPM. Oh, yeah. I don't know how long Hourly Comic Day has been around. It's been at least a couple years. And I'll tell you what compels me about it. Is most people, I think the general premise, at least from the people I follow, it seems to be do comics every hour about your day. And I immediately want to question that premise. I like not to be a contrarian or to be, not to critique or criticize the endeavor. Is more to say, I wonder what else you could do with that. Like the challenge of doing a comic every hour, or let's follow the rules in air quotes. How would I use that constraint and limitation to explore my abilities as a storyteller? How would it change the way I tell stories if I'm working under that kind of a tight constraint? And how would that affect my reflection about the work I do in any given day? That's compelling. But then something stopped me, and that's what we're going to talk about on the show. Almost there. Whoops. Oh, goodness, I did it again. All right, fine. I'll actually do a 2-finger tap like that. Reads as an undo, which I don't use as much as I should. I mean, it's a pretty handy way to... Almost to the point where I can start flatting this. How am I doing on time? 45 minutes. I'm on like some serious time budgeting right now because I'm essentially working 3 jobs. Not to complain, it's a very good problem to be very employed, but the penalty, there's always a cost. There's always a cost to everything, and the penalty for this is that I don't get to do much inking where I get lost in it. Back when I only had 2 jobs where I was just a cartoonist and teaching artist, and I only taught like, maybe 3 hours a week, I had tons of time to get down that rabbit hole of losing yourself in the work. I had an appointment with a friend recently, actually just this week, where they were 15 minutes late, and I had to text them and say, like, hey, we doing this thing or not? And then they called me on the phone and said, hey, I'm really sorry, I was just lost in inking. And I'm like, oh, I remember what that feels like. There's a little bit more detail to do, and throw on some flat colors. And can I pull off a miracle and finish this, even have it colored in less than an hour? That would be bananas. Do I think streaming helps me get lost in these limited time frames? I feel like there's a bit of a performance involved in this, right? I'm doing this with the express purpose of asking people to watch me. Express purpose? That doesn't even make sense. There's the explicit request for an audience when I'm doing this. So I feel like a little bit of a obligation to have my sort of the same part of my brain that's operating when I'm teaching at work. Like, find ways to talk. Oh, no. Let's do this. Let's see. Paint bucket. You're going to... Oh, you are referring to all layers. Good for you. Okay, I'm going to hide my pencils now. And make sure I'm on the right layer. So it's kind of... And this is not a complaint, by the way. This is just the trade-off, right? I feel like, I didn't I didn't ink his face. I can't get lost in it because I'm also talking about it while I'm doing it. But that's the trade-off, and I'm not I could complain about that. There's an element of like, this is what I chose. So let's go back to this brush. The getting lost in it part, I think, only happens when I can have like sort of something going on, like some kind of noise going on in the background. Usually, like for me, like those nights are when I put on like a kaiju movie. I put on something like Gamera versus Gauss or something. And I'm sitting on the couch with my Vio Z canvas, and I'm just, just inking without any other expectation of attention or presence. So, like, my wife goes on a trip, which hasn't happened in a while, because of where we are right now. That's when I'll sit on the couch with the cats and watch a monster movie and just, get lost in the work. Oh, well, yes. I see that is true. one upgrade to streaming while you're working is, yeah, you're accountable now. I can't just go. I mean, I have like a sort of be right back video that I could play if I like suddenly have to have like a bathroom break or something. But as far as like stopping to look at social media or check my email, nope. That is one great thing about it. It keeps you on task. Okay, so now I'm going to make my cover art layer a reference layer. Go to my flats. Set my paint bucket to refer to the reference layer. I'm going to save because I've just done a lot of work here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off those raster inks and watch how fast flatting goes. Let's go to my SRSLY palette. Early vest. Boom, boom. And green. Okay, so there is one downside to this ink brush, is that I guess it's, even though it's a vector line, if the ink isn't filled all the way, it's treating it like it's not filled. Oh, that's a drag. I thought for sure, even though it was like a dry brush. You fill out to there. That's weird. Okay. All right. I don't know what's going on here. What's going on with the paint bucket? And SRSLY boots. Where are my SRSLY boots? Boom, 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 boom. Now, Dino Gator, where are you, friend? Dino Gator green. Oh, that should be white. Now I'm going to select his colors. Don't tell me there's gaps in here. Okay, yeah, I didn't think there should be gaps in there. So flats. Oh, I know why. Okay. So I'm going to select the colors in the flats. I'm going to put his underbelly in by hand. Okay. And Dame Lady Cat. And I'm going to do her dark fur by hand too. Oh, look at that. I didn't close the shape. Turn our... Go to my vector inks right there. There we go. Colors off and back to work. Light fur. Dark fur. Put the dark fur on her face. Wrong pen. Bucket, bucket, bucket. Wrong color. Dark blue for the skirt. Light blue for the bottom part of her dress, and then orange for the cuff. Light blue. Why do you keep doing that? Yeah. And Lady Cat, dark blue for her little hat. This is a weird thing that I run into. Like, I've got my paint bucket set to stop filling at the center line of the vector, but I have it at to expand a pixel. And so it does bleed over into other areas. I'll do the crayons. Darker red than that. And that's flatted. Double check. Any gaps there? Fix any gaps. Looks good. Oh, did I just do a bad thing? Oh, I forgot turnbuckles shoulder there. Let's go to the flats layer, get turnbuckle skin color. Boom. Now we're done. So then I can drop in. What I'm also going to do is I'm going to put a white background behind these fellas in the same shape. Fill that in white because I'm going to do a little trick here after I color it. I'm going to like erase part of the colors, like the colors are being erased, so that you have to use the crayons to fill them in. That's the idea behind this one. Now I can turn on my backgrounds. There we go. Oh, forgot to fill in Yarly's teeth. And save. How are we doing on time? Oh, I'm at an hour. I'm going to have to call this one good. Wait. I already read this again, Dado. You usually have the option filter, adjust, line width, thicken. set to a keyboard shortcut. So I hit the shortcut a couple of times till the flat shapes meet. Oh, I see. Well, but see, would that work with the fact that I'm working with colored characters over top of a transparent layer? Like the fills around them are transparent. So if I hit that, wouldn't it make the fills go out over the lines? Get out of here. Get out of there. Okay. What am I doing here? Oh, I'm painting with white instead of erasing. Huh. How about I erase? Because I got a little bit of overlap here where the colors are going over top of the lines into the colored space. So yeah, if all the flats are on the same layer, then that would totally work, right? So I could set that to a key command. But in this particular use case, I think I would have some overlap like I do right here on this crayon that I got to fix. Let's see. But I always am grateful for your advice, Dotto, because you're, oh, I know, the clipping mask. Actually, that is a great idea. That is a great use case for using the clipping mask. I saw your approach, and I was like, yeah, well, it's like I could do a similar thing by just like using selections and just like setting my flats layer to be a reference layer, set my magic wand tool to only refer to the reference layer, and then no matter what layer I'm on, if I just like select that region, I can shade in there. But yeah, if you're using clipping masks, and then you could have everything clipped to the flats clipped to the shape below. Okay, I'm thinking about it. You got me thinking. So thank you for that. And let's see how this is all looking together. Get a sense of. So this won't take long for me to color, but I am out of time for the stream today. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me. All the information about me is right below this little video panel right here. If you want to follow more of my stuff. And I'll be back Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Central. So thank you, everybody, once again. This is the part where I'm supposed to say, if you enjoyed this, please hit like on this video on YouTube or on Twitch. Okay, so until next time, Jersey Drost, jdrost.com, Jersey Drost on Instagram. Okay, bye.